Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. It's Alan Barry Labucan from the Rocks and Stocks News website. We've got a regular guest now is Ewan Downie from I-80 Gold. He keeps on putting out great news, so I got to keep inviting him. Ewan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on again.
Well, you know, let's talk about this news. There was a bunch of takeaways from it that I want to talk about, but why don't you give us your view of what this news meant?
Well, we're a fairly new company, so it's been we're just starting to get the first of our news out. We've been drilling basically since we started trading about 6 months ago, but the pace at getting assays right now is really tough. So it just took a long time for assays, and we put out a single hole about a month ago on the open pit portion, but really we wanted to, when we start coming out with the underground results, not just release a couple of good holes and say, hey, we got a couple of good holes. So we did a pretty fulsome. There was I think 11 holes included in today's press release. 9 of the 11 hit high-grade mineralization, demonstrating really good continuity. We're drilling immediately at the bottom level and below the bottom level of where there's workings at the Granite Creek underground mine, and this zone remains wide open at depth. We had intercepts up to over 7 meters of plus 40 grams. So the high grade is really holding up here, and it's an area that we expect to be moving in and hopefully mining in 2022.
Yeah, that was part of your news release, is that it was in a zone that you were sort of targeting for future underground mining.
Yeah, there was some mining done here by Atna just over a decade ago, and so this is one of the areas that they were looking at for development. They did do some stoping in the area, but not a lot of work was done here on this exact auto fault structure. It was through an area of ground that they weren't developing at the pace they needed, but drill indications were that there was some really good grade material in that area. So we've been infilling and stepping out from where there was a few previous holes in this area. It's immediately adjacent to and below the existing workings. It's a very easy area for us to develop on an expedited pace, and we're just trying to get sufficient drilling into it to define a zone that's mineable. So those are some of the key aspects of the current program underground, is preparing multiple areas for mining. And given that we just signed the deal with Nevada Gold Mines, whereby they've agreed to process the refractory material at their facilities, we're trying to fast track as much as possible, having sufficient areas for mining that we can put in the development, start taking out some of the high grade mineralization and trucking it to the Nevada Gold Mines processing facility until such time as we get our own Lone Tree facility up and running. So it's so far so good. It's looking really good in these areas that we're drilling, and
I got the long section of the auto zone up on my screen here, Ewan, and so you can see. And by the way, go to their website, i80gold.com. Look for this news release, and you'll see the cross section I'm talking about. You can see the underground workings and where you drilled off of those underground workings, and it looks like fairly good step outs there, Ewan. Beyond to depth, there was a bunch of hits there, and sort of a long strike, if you will.
Yeah, it's mainly in this zone. It's more of sort of a chute, so to speak, and it remains wide open at depth. So we will be doing more drilling. We've got one drill on surface that is solely stepping out at depth, and we haven't released any of the expansion results at depth. If you look at the supplementary presentation that was included that's on our website that was included with this press release, you'll see that there is um, a big area of high-grade mineralization that's not included in our current resource. And those are some of the areas that we're stepping out and drilling and doing infill so that by year end we can have hopefully a significantly larger gold resource here than what we have currently.
A couple other things stood out to me was in the quote by your VPX, he mentioned that it seemed to be broadening at depth. Is that the mineralization or the faulting?
I think some of the, just indications are that we're drilling off these chutes, and as you go down, they just seem to be expanding, and some of the fault structures appear to be getting closer together. So it is possible what we're seeing in the step out drilling that we're doing from surface, both, significantly below this area where we're drilling from underground, we're seeing more kind of broad fault structures rather than multiple fault structures. And some of these intercepts, you can see we had gold mineralization in 3 different horizons.
And could that affect grade as well? Could it get juicier as you get deeper?
We're waiting on assays, but we also in that presentation, you can see we've got a slide just showing where we are, and it's geologically, it's on the same contact as the Turquoise Ridge mine. And Turquoise Ridge is 25 million ounces of production and reserves. So we're essentially almost the on-strike extension of that.
And that's the
deposit.
Main fault that goes through your property, right?
Yeah, if you look at that geological section, there's a large intrusive. It's sort of a pink colored unit in that presentation. And we've put on the white fault along the contact. That's
right.
What's referred to as the Getchell fault up at Turquoise Ridge. And most of the high-grade mineralization is in the hanging wall of the Getchell fault, up proximal to that intrusive. And we have a second lobe of that intrusive, so to speak. There's the fault continues against that eastern contact, just like at Turquoise Ridge, and in the same rock unit in these hanging wall faults is where we're finding the high-grade mineralizations. The geological setup is essentially identical to Turquoise Ridge. Now we just have to hope we're as big as that.
And I also see what looks like a secondary fault, that the main fault goes this way and it comes right by where the pit is. Am I seeing things there, Ewan?
No, it's kind of where we find the most high grade. There's a bit of a kink in the geology in the fault structure, so there is a bit of an area where we think there's a lot of coalescing structures. And when you look at the section that we have on that website, the geological section, we're drilling up close to the intrusive. But if you move away from the intrusive, there's the CX fault, and then further to the east, there's the mag fault, where the mag pit is. And those two structures looking to depth have really not been drilled before. Most of the drilling is focused on this area up towards, well, some of it's in the CX fault, but most of it's been around the CX fault and in the hanging wall of the main structure, which is where these drill results are from. And it's quite possible that as the other fault structures go to depth and they move into the more favorable lower Comus unit, that we could get significant high-grade deposits existing in multiple fault structures. So that's something I'm looking forward to drilling in the coming year or two. We'll be doing a lot more, probably move next year into more exploration around the properties, look at a good geological feature and say, well, there's no drill holes there, so let's test that and see if there's multiple deposits on this property.
And is that the case at Turquoise Hill?
Yeah, Turquoise Ridge is actually quite deep. Turquoise Ridge is actually fairly deep in comparison to where we're drilling. There's multiple shafts that they've now sunk at Turquoise Ridge to mine the ore body. And if you look at Barrick's website, the majority of it is at depths of 2,000 feet or more. And the drilling we're doing right now, the surface drilling, step out drilling at depth is only down around 1,200 feet. So we still have a ways to go until we hit the depth of Turquoise Ridge, and Turquoise Ridge really blew up at depth, so to speak, and that's what really made the deposit. And we just haven't done those kind of step outs on this property to test if that same environment exists on our property.
But there are indications, that's why your VPX probably made that statement about it broadening.
Yeah, yeah, he just feels that these zones are getting maybe a bit thicker, and these chutes, because these fault structures kind of have, there's a lot of alteration around the fault, but the gold mineralization is condensed to the fault, that maybe the faulting's getting a little stronger at depth, and we just have to keep stepping out and see how it goes.
Awesome. The other thing was that you have a PEA in the works on this, and I guess PEA, and then will you do a full fees to bring it into make a decision, or what's the steps forward?
Yeah, we started the PEA basically when we acquired the property, which is when we started trading. So and in that period, we were negotiating the deal with Nevada Gold Mines, and there was no certainty we were going to close that deal with Nevada Gold Mines, right? So now we have an autoclave, we have a CIL plant, and we completed the PEA as if we didn't own our own infrastructure. So when it should be coming out either next week or the following week at the very latest, we're going to put it out. But when you see it, you'll probably notice right away that the PEA assumes we're doing third-party processing for life of mine for the refractory material. And it's assuming that the high-grade oxide mineralization is going to go into a CIL plant that we're building at Granite Creek. But now with the acquisition from Nevada Gold Mines, we have our own CIL plant just to the south. So perhaps that capital, when we do a full fees, will be gone. And so we were debating whether we even release it or maybe we update it with everything we're doing, but that would make a big delay. We've already delayed it, and we feel we should just put it out. It's a PEA. We'll do a full fees bit on the back of this drilling we're doing right now to bring the underground.
In that news, you can always mention that, well, this was done prior to this event, and now this event's happened, so we'll do that affect this economics.
Yeah, we're actually going to publish the PEA results even before we announce the Nevada Gold Mines transaction to acquire Lone Tree, and just felt we didn't want to take away from the acquisition by putting out a PEA immediately before. So we postponed it a bit. We know that there's some upside available because we won't long-term, hopefully we won't be using Nevada Gold Mines for processing. We'll be doing it ourselves. That'll be a lower cost of processing. And then we'll have to see what we do about the CIL plant that we're assuming in the PEA. What we do we continue along that path, or do we just use the one we own down to the south, or even talk to Nevada Gold Mines about using their CIL plant immediately to the north at Twin Creeks? So we do expect a lot of changes between the PEA and the feasibility study, but our assumption is that those will hopefully be mostly positive changes.
Well, you're always good at explaining that stuff, so we'll have to have another conversation once you have that PEA out, Ewan, so we can talk about what might be different between the PEA and the fees. So looking forward, in the immediate future, that's one thing on the plate. More assay results. Is the drilling that you're waiting on, is it just from Granite Creek, or do you usually have a bunch of things going on?
Just noise in the background, sorry.
Oh, no worries, I didn't hear anything.
No, yeah, we'll have to have that update with the once the PEA's out. That'll be 2 weeks, so I'll talk to you in the next week or two, I guess the best way to put it. But Yeah, we can talk about what some of the differences may be going forward, given we have the processing facility.
But then also you've got drilling results pending, or how does, are you got a bunch in the lab right now, or you
Oh yeah,
drilling more?
we only had up to hole 14. I think we've drilled 50 holes so far. So
Holy moly.
there's a lot of news to come. Yeah.
Okay, so we got lots to talk about in the future, Ewan.
Yeah, and then we're just moving drills into Ruby Hill, and that program is going to be ramping up in the next few weeks as well. So we're going to have 2 major drill campaigns going by Christmas time.
Wow, I read 20,000 meters or something like that just on the Granite Creek, and how much at Ruby Hill?
Probably going to be the same, about 20-30.
Wow, you guys are really cranking things up there, Ewan, for a brand new company that only started trading, what, 6-8 months ago?
6 months ago.
6 months ago. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up on that. Ewan, we hit on all the key things: high grade, underground drilling, PEA in the works, broadening at depth, similar to Turquoise Ridge. Lots of good stuff going on there, Ewan.
Yeah, it's an exciting times here. We've got a lot on the go. We're building our team, made some key new hires lately, and look forward to welcoming them into the I-80 family, and away we go.
Awesome. I'm going to close it off here, Ewan. You can listen.
Okay, thanks a lot, Alan.
Closing pitch. So there you go, folks. I-80 Gold. I think that this company is, and they've made statements such as this, that they're heading towards being a large producer of gold in Nevada. That's the same path that Barrick Gold built Barrick Gold. Now it's, well, then it was American Barracks. Now it's just Barrick. And Barrick and Newmont have a partnership. What also sets them aside is that they've got processing facilities. Not a lot of producers have those processing facilities. So it looks like they're on the tail or the coattails of the Newmont and Barrick partnership. And if they're even somewhat near those coattails, that would mean that they're a very big producer of gold on a global sense. Nevada is one of the most important places in the world to mine gold. Many companies that are involved, whether it's exploration or producers, they get a premium. I call it the Nevada premium for being in Nevada, low costs, high margin type stuff. And this Granite Creek, I'm just blown away how it's moving ahead so rapidly. So there you go, folks. If you're interested in a gold producer with a pipeline to help them grow into a bigger producer of gold in Nevada, I-80 is one you got to take a look at. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.